Perkiomen Township, the plans have been submitted to Perkiomen as well. So I guess we'll be having another Zoom meeting in the near future with Perkiomen Township. But as you can see, if you're looking at the plan, it's fairly straightforward. It's approximately a 5-acre parcel that we're just doing, like I said, the minor subdivision on. Approximately 2.5 acres in Trapp and another 2.5 acres or so in Perkiomen. The plan, was reviewed. We obtained a copy of Doug Brown's letter the other day. I had the opportunity to discuss the letter with Doug, and I really don't see any issues that are not more than will comply, and maybe like one waiver. There was one comment in the letter under the zoning ordinance, which there was, I guess, some discussion or thoughts about the existing barn that's located on the property in Trapp. And I guess emailed with you today, Tamara, and you're in agreement that that's just an existing non-conforming use and structure, and there's no issues with having it remain. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, I mean, that was really I see is the only issue that needed some discussion, and it's been clarified. We do have, Doug's letter, several comments. I can go through it point by point if you want, or if you had any questions on it. It just depends on how you want me to handle it.
I think we're fine. It will, if you have nothing more on it, I don't think we need to go point by point. If there's, we get to the point, if there's any questions by any board members or anyone in the public, we'll address it at that point.
Yeah, I thought it was also very straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, there's one comment about showing the existing and proposed features within 400 feet of the property. I don't know if we technically need a waiver on that, but we did provide an aerial plan, which is sheet number 7 of the set, that shows the 400-foot perimeter, and we use that pretty standard anymore to show the proximity, so everyone can kind of see what's within 400 feet of the property. I think it's pretty clear with that aerial image. So like I said, I don't know if we technically need a waiver from that or not, or if that aerial image is sufficient.
I believe, Larry, you would require a waiver for that. I mean, it's somewhat of a standard waiver that gets waived often, but I think we would have to, the council would be doing a formal waiver from what I've seen in previous, reviews. So
Right.
Would that be the only waiver then that you'd be looking for? Everything else you would comply with?
Yeah, I think everything else was, fairly straightforward. Is that, just that one waiver. Just look here. Oh, I guess the other possible waiver would be shade trees and street trees. If we could just use the couple existing trees that are there, or if we need to put in additional trees along the frontage. I think, there is some trees down by Betcher Road, but, I guess kind of maybe, I don't know if that would be an item that could be waived or not. There is some vegetation and trees out along the road now,
I think that's a fairly steep slope out front there, isn't it? If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's a pretty steep hill.
It is pretty steep where the driveway kind of cuts across the front of the property just to, for the grade. So, I mean, I don't know, technically that would be a waiver for street trees, or we can just say that existing trees are sufficient.
Again, I think you'd have to request a waiver because it is a saldo requirement. It's waivable, but
Right.
I guess, depending on the situation, I know sometimes council will ask for a fee in lieu of if you don't want to plant trees. In your case, since you're not creating any new lots, they may be
Right.
willing to waive that altogether, but that you would still have to ask for a waiver.
Okay. I think that was, pretty much it. There was that under Doug's general comments, number 3 about the water and sewer. And I did email that guy, you gave me his email today, Tamara, asking for the water and sewer plans, which I did have a copy from a while ago, but I just wanted to make sure I get it straight as to, where this is going and where the sewage is, I guess, going to be going from that Perkiomen lot too. I have a discussion or a call in with Perkiomen as well.
I said, I think where you show it tying in on the plans is traps or, Collegeville traps lines. So if that's where you want to tie in, I think it would be the Collegeville Trap Municipal Authority and Joint Public Works. So,
Right.
and I don't know that Trap would, has an issue with that as long as you meet the authorities, terms and specifications. But I guess we should confirm with Perkiomen that they don't have an issue with that.
Right. Well, like I said, the plan is pending with Perkiomen as well. And you have to do the sewage planning exemption. I guess Perkiomen will handle that because the one new dwelling is going to be in their township, and the existing dwelling in Trap is already connected, so it shouldn't be an issue there.
If you tie into our system, we may have to. I'm not sure. I think it depends on who you're signing into or tying into.
Right. Yeah, it's in Doug's letter to get. I need to get the will serve letters from whoever, but like I said, I'll be working back and forth a little bit between the authority and Perkiomen still in the next upcoming weeks.
I know you have a zoning hearing for that coming up in early September. Have you gone, I mean, do you need that before have they reviewed the subdivision yet, or are they doing that first?
I haven't seen a review from their township engineer yet. We did get the notice from John Moran over at Perkiomen that it's scheduled for September 2nd. And I guess the reason for the zoning variance request is just because of the lot frontage, just because of the way that we're doing the subdivision following the municipal boundary. They don't have the required lot frontage. I think they need 150 feet, and we only have about actually 60 feet. But as you see on the plan, the lot gets wider as it goes back, so there's sufficient area to build the house and everything. So.
Okay, yeah, I think everything that was presented and reviewed by our engineer, there's not a lot going on on the trap side.
No.
I think most of your hurdles are going to be with Perk Township. And I do believe that Public Works, the water and the sewer serve a handful of properties outside of the boroughs of Collegeville and Trap. So if you were to go that route, I don't think that's going to be an issue for you either. Like Tamara said, as long as you meet all the requirements from them.
Right.
At this time, are there any other comments or questions from the board members?
No.
I guess the only question I have is if there's going to be any change in the grading and whether or not it will be flowing towards the township and cause any issues on Betcher Road.
The plan is there's an existing driveway, like a private driveway that serves 3 existing houses on that road there. And the proposal is to construct a new driveway back to the house. So there will be some grading. All the work primarily is going to be in the Perkiomen Township, and we did have to comply with their stormwater management. So there is like an underground, stormwater dry well and an infiltration trench to catch the water from the driveway. So, stormwater management is being provided for in the design.
Okay.
Anything else from board members? Do we have any comments or questions from the public? Okay, are we looking to make a motion on this, Tamara, to council?
I would think unless you want to see it again, which I don't know that you really need to, I would think you could recommend preliminary and or final if you wanted to, as long as they, complied with or addressed the issues in the engineer's review letter and requested the waivers they needed from Borough Council.
Would we have a motion for preliminary and final approval for this subdivision?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Okay, Mark seconded that.
Okay, I
You
did
can't
not hear.
see. Yeah,
All in-
he raised his hand, and I guess not everybody's on video.
I couldn't unmute fast enough.
Ooh, lucky it's not a game show. You might not have won. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. Yes, I do believe that, nothing's much changing on the trap side. And again, I think most of your, what you're going to be dealing with is Perk Township with that on their side of the border. So thank you very much for the presentation, and we wish you the best of luck going forward.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And just a real quick question, Tamara, is this going to be on for the upcoming council meeting, or how's that work? Is it automatic? There's going to be another Zoom meeting, or is it just handled administratively from this point? Do you know?
So no, it would have to go in front of council when you're ready for your approval. So I guess I don't know that, I'm not sure when you want to turn your, if you can turn your plan around to either address those issues. We need in writing the waivers that you're requesting, which would be the 400 feet and the shade trees if you are.
Mhm.
I mean, I can put it on the agenda at this point. If it's not, since it
Well,
is
but-
minor, they may consider approving it contingent upon meeting the review, or you could probably at least get preliminary approval, or
Right.
however you want to do it. We can talk, the next day or two and see what you want to do.
I guess, I really wasn't planning on like revising the drawings quite yet. So I
Okay.
wanted to, get past the zoning with Perkiomen Township and get their comments and then address everything at once.
Well,
And
we
then-
could wait till the October council meeting if you think maybe that's a time when you'd have, if you want to wait till you get some stuff back from Perkiomen and then just do all your revisions and submit, or.
Yeah, well, yes, when would the council meeting be for TRAP?
Well, September, the meeting's the 1st, it's early, and October would be the first Tuesday, which would be the 6th.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess then, the October 1st meeting, because I don't want to maybe get ahead of ourselves here until we get little comments and through the zoning with Perkiomen Township. But, as long as we have the recommendation for the approval from the Planning Commission, that's sufficient. And I can, tell Perkiomen that, we're moving ahead.
Okay.
Tamara,
Yeah,
This is a minor subdivision plan, so I don't think it goes through a final plan and a preliminary plan process. So any approval was just going to be a final plan approval.
okay. So then it would probably make sense to wait till the October meeting so that you have the issues, you have no issues with Perkiomen, or that they're worked out with Perkiomen.
Yeah, I haven't seen any review letters yet, but I assume they're going to have some comments that we need to address on the plan, so.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item that we have on the agenda is the West 7th Avenue track. I guess it was last fall that we saw a plan on this, and now we have another proposal of, it looks like 20 single homes. So do we have representatives on for the West 7th Avenue track?
Here representing the applicant, actually being part of the applicant, and Susan Rice is also. Susan is our engineer.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm having a very hard time understanding anything. I don't know if anybody else is.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was me or if it was. So
Yeah.
Ed, you sound real muffled, like you're in a tunnel somewhere.
Let me, does this help?
Yes.
I have the phone close to me.
That's
Okay,
better.
all right. Basically, we're talking about the Patricia Longacre and the back of the Laura Falzone property. And what you saw before was a plan for 96 apartments. And we have been in a dispute with the borough as to whether we have the right to build those apartments. We have had 2 meetings with neighbors. We have met with the township consultants, or I'm sorry, borough consultants. And we've come up with the plan that you have in front of you as a compromise and a settlement. The borough told us that we had to rezone the property to an existing district. We originally proposed 24 houses, and that did not fit any of your existing districts. So we came up with the DC district and came up with the plan that you have in front of you. And we've requested the rezoning, and we're here to answer any questions you may have. And let me know.
Okay, well, first of all, you have 22. I'm sorry, I had stated 20 earlier. So do you know the overall acreage of this property? I guess
7.71.
7.71, okay. Are we, it seems a little high for 7. I think it's 3/4 acres per lot, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't understand your question.
Well, that was my first. I wasn't sure because I know in the last plan,
Is that the-
it involved a couple of properties other than the Longacre property. And I didn't
Yes,
know.
this plan involves the back, the rear portion of the Laura Falzone property
Mhm.
at 118 West 7th.
Okay. Yeah, that was my first concern looking at the drawing was, the amount of houses in a 7, close to 8 acre lot property. I take it that this is just for, for us to look at, make some comments, and then they're going to also go before the zoning hearing board. Tamara, would that be?
No, the next step is a hearing by borough council to rezone the property to VC, or at least consider it. And they'll do it or they won't do it.
Is that accurate? I mean, borough council, I thought that's the reason for the zoning board.
So this isn't a request for a variance or a zoning challenge. They've submitted a request to rezone. So borough council has the authority to change zoning if they want to, just like they can change a zoning ordinance or a subdivision and land development ordinance. But in order to do that, they have to go through the process that's outlined in the municipality's planning code. So they have to hold a public hearing. They have to advertise that public hearing. They have to post the affected properties. They have to notify the property owners within 500 feet. And then they would have to hold the public hearing, get public comment, and then they can consider whether or not they want to amend the zoning ordinance or the zoning map. Basically, they'd be amending the zoning map to change the Longacre parcels and the rear of the Falcone parcel to village commercial. There would be a stipulation agreement with the applicant that the only use in village commercial that they could do would be single family homes. So they couldn't put, condos or commercial. It would be strictly the single family home that's outlined on this plan. And it's somewhat of a, I guess, a blended agreement. Once this was agreed to and amended and the zoning would be changed, the applicant will withdraw their zoning appeal and their challenges to the zoning change, the validity of the zoning change, and the outcome would be this development rather than the 96 apartments.
I have a question though. Why wouldn't it just go to residential? Why would it be village commercial?
Because,
The answer is,
sorry, go ahead, Ned.
the
Sorry.
only thing that we fit into is VC.
Because of the lot size that they're looking for. So residential, I guess R3 requires, I think 15,000 square feet maybe, but you can have twins and townhomes, and the borough was not interested necessarily in having townhomes. So we asked the applicant to try to conform to an existing residential district. And village commercial is a residential district. It's
Yeah, I know that.
by
Yeah.
right. So that's why that they chose that.
Is there a size requirement, Tamara, for single-family dwellings in village commercial?
As far as the lot,
Yes,
yes, 10,000 square feet. And
Okay,
each of these lots are 10,000 square feet. And if you wanted something to compare this to, Colonel's Place off of College Avenue, where Mark lives, is a village commercial. It was developed under village commercial, the 10,000 square foot lots.
Which place?
Colonel's Place, it's across from the old, the condos, the old school, new school. East First and College Avenue.
I know where that, where it's Stone School is now.
Right. So the development that's behind Stone School, the cul-de-sac, is a village commercial zone.
Oh, the single family homes there.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
it'd be comparable to that in size and probably house size.
Oh, they're going to be because I don't see where it says how big the houses are going to be. Is that on something else?
I mean, I don't think that's necessarily set in stone. It would probably be up to the builder who's building them. But Ed or Susan, do you have a estimated house size?
The houses would approximately be 2,400 square feet, maybe 2,600.
Mhm.
They would be in the $500,000 range and up.
Okay. Yeah, I know that's that other development is nice. I know I've been back in there. The one we're talking about, Tamara.
I mean, at the time they sold fairly quickly, is my understanding.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, I actually talked to some of the people in there when I was actually doing some things with Stone School. So anyway.
so by the looks of it, all the homes will fit in the setbacks and the boxes that you have on this drawing. You're not looking for any kind of waivers there.
Now, we meet all the requirements of the zoning ordinance. We need no variances. Everything is in accordance with the VC district.
Any other board members have any comments or questions on this proposal?
I do not.
Any
These little-
comments? Oh, go ahead.
These little 10 by 20 squares that are next to the houses in the plan, are those patios or something? I'm just trying to figure out what those are.
Patios
I'll
or
let Susan
decks.
answer that.
Wait, yeah.
Susan?
Yeah, sorry, I was couldn't get the unmute. Yeah, they're to designate either patio or deck, whatever would be permitted in that district.
Mhm. Because some of them are like into the setback.
Yeah, and there's some instances where a patio or deck would be allowed to extend into the setback.
Yes, I think patios under our current ordinance, patios can encroach into the setback. I don't believe that decks can, under the way it's currently written, which, I mean, is something that, right now, the only thing that can encroach is a enclosed front porch, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but, so that is something, I mean, I'm looking at, I've been making notes on areas of the zoning ordinances that I think could use updated, and that may be something that people want to consider as decks and porches being allowed to encroach, but currently patios can, so.
Does there need to be a big change in the existing grading to have all these houses like slope toward, like the stormwater to end up in that basin?
Yes, we are working out the grading, and it will need to be adjusted slightly so that we can get the stormwater to the basin, and also to get sanitary sewer out to the front.
Mhm.
They are showing, if any of you have noticed, they're showing a trail back through between lots 6 and 7 that will, or a trail easement that will allow access back to Rambo Park, which is one thing that was talked about when they first came in with this plan, that, we like to tie open spaces together. So they have shown that on the plan also.
Well, I'm sure we're going to be seeing this again based on, what Borough Council decides. Do we want to keep tonight to just deciding if planning wants to make a recommendation to council as far as the zoning change? Is that our goal?
Yes, because it would, I mean, once the zoning was changed, I mean, it would still come through the subdivision land development process somewhat. I mean, the layout is pretty much what it will be because of the zoning, but they'll still have to address stormwater and all the other SALDO requirements. So I mean, it would come back in front of the Planning Commission through that process, is my understanding. So this is really just a comment or make a recommendation on the change of the zoning from LI to VC.
Do we have any other questions or comments from the board members?
No, I think it's pretty clear at this point, as far as the zoning.
Do we have any questions or comments from the public? Okay, at this point, I guess, do we want to make a recommendation to council as far as you know, what are our thoughts on approving of a, man, I'm losing the track here, zoning change for this tract on West 7th Avenue? Silence. I guess we could just pass along that we did review the plan and that there was no recommendation for or against the zoning change, and just leave it in the hands of the councilmen who make the big bucks.
And that's that's fine. I mean, the MPC says you have to have opportunity to review it and comment if you desire. I don't believe it says that you have to. So no recommendation. We can just report back that you know, we can have the minutes available and probably draft a letter, just because it is a zoning ordinance. You know, Steve, if we can maybe have a letter from you as the chairman that it was, you know, that it was reviewed, it was acknowledged, it was reviewed, you had sufficient time to review it, and you were not, the planning commission wasn't taking a position, positive or negative. And we can put that together for, you know, with you in the next week or two.
That sounds fine with me if the other board members are okay with that.
I think that's good.
Yeah, I think that's very fair, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, if no more questions or comments, I guess I want to thank you for coming out and showing us the new plan. And we'll look forward to seeing what happens going forward.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon with the formal plan.
All right, thanks, Ed. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, 71 West 3rd Avenue.
Yeah, and you know, I don't actually see that anybody is on for that. And I guess I realized at about 6 o'clock, I did not confirm with anybody from their site that it was on. So I guess maybe it'll be a shorter meeting than we thought. I mean, you have the plan, you have the review letter. If anybody had questions or concerns, Doug Brown's on, but it looks like at this point, I don't know. I would think that they might want to be here for a review. So I don't know that we have to go too far in depth, and I can see if they want to come next month.
Is this where they're just dividing it into 2 lots, or am I
So
mistaken?
no, so this is what's known as the old Bringhurst Estates, right? So there's currently 4 houses on 1 lot. They are taking the 4 houses down, dividing it into 7 single-family lots, 5 of which are in R2, and 6 and 7 are in the village commercial. So there'll be 7 single-family homes where there's currently 4.
And are they like right, I went by there the other day. Are they like, they're pretty much right up against the street?
Yes.
At a compost site?
Yeah, and they're all vacant?
Yes, they are all vacant. The first one after the animal hospital, like
Yeah.
so the old Getty station, and then the animal
Yeah.
hospital, and then the first one is considered an unsafe structure, and it's boarded up. There was a fire there, and then the next one was also uninhabited, and the last 2 were vacated maybe 6 or 8 months ago. They
Okay.
were rentals, they were vacated. So they're currently all vacant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, right now it could look better.
Isn't there potentially some sort of like historical significance to one of the structures or something like that there?
So
Was some philanthropist or something had built them?
Right, so Bringhurst was I guess a philanthropist who has some historical value to the area. He had bought properties, and Fred, I think you're on. If you want to unmute yourself, you probably have a better history of this, but Fred, do you want to kind of give the historical background for that?
Bringhurst, I think originally is from up north, and he has several, within the estate, there are about 4 different properties that were all lumped together, and the courts finally gave them approval to sell. So Accolade they chose to purchase the Bringhurst here on 113. And I think I've been a resident for over 50 years and have seen that property decline, and it's a sad state of affairs. And what I saw on the drawings would be an improvement. Now, in terms of like the Bringhurst, I think he made his money on coal, and how he settled in this area, I don't know. Originally, those houses were to be for orphans and widows, and in recent years, none of them were occupied by persons meeting those 2 criteria.
And it's my understanding that the where the Getty is was his original home, which I guess was like
Yes,
the estate or mansion.
that's right. There was a so-called mansion there, and unfortunately, there aren't any pictures that I know of what was there originally. I can remember seeing it, and I happened to get a toilet out of the property before it was torn down back 50 years ago.
So, I mean, historically, that the first house, which is the one that had a fire that's boarded up, that would be the one in the Village Commercial, that if they were doing something that required conditional use, they would need to show cause that it was structurally unsound, but they don't have to go through conditional use for doing a by right use, which is a single family home. And I mean, I don't necessarily consider that the exterior of that really historic, as I think we would think of most of the historic stuff in Trap Village. It's the old white stucco home, but it has been damaged, by fire. So I don't know what the cost would be to restore something like that. But
So the original plan was to put 4 units in lot 7 and 8, right? Or 7 and 6.
they had talked about that. They had come with a sketch to council about putting twins there in the VC.
Right.
And then I guess they decided they didn't want to go through the conditional use process, and they would just decided to put in what they could do by right.
Right.
I think when they came before council in January, they were considering duplex units up in the Village Commercial area, and I recall Honorado saying that they did not have sufficient space to accommodate the duplexes that they were proposing. The third possibility was with a large cul-de-sac was so outrageous that I think they knew that would not be accepted. And I think the by right, I do not foresee any of our neighbors really making an issue of it as is proposed.
Right.
Doug, since you're on, was there anything that you wanted to highlight or point out from your review that you thought was significant that, or would you, I mean, we can certainly wait until the applicant would be here but I didn't know if maybe you wanted to take the opportunity to point anything out or talk about anything.
Mostly there's technical issues. His property had some issues with his property lines not closing, so he has to adjust those. I don't think this plan is to the point yet where you'd want to approve it. some of the issues, other than the property line is, I think he needs to have his driveways looked at. Technically, per the code, the twin driveways need to be 24 feet wide, and he's showing 18 feet. And I think he has a couple zoning issues that I think are just typos, and he's got to work them out. So I don't think there's anything too caustic or detrimental on this thing that would, cause it to be a problem. I think his stormwater's okay. He's putting little basins on each lot. His basins were kind of unique. They were just little berms in the backyard. When they fill up, they would overtop in some sheet flow fashion for about 100 feet wide. And that didn't make sense to me, because that's just going to be a maintenance issue for the homeowner. So I asked him to clarify that stuff. So if he tweaks his stormwater, he's fine. And I think he can address all these issues fine enough that when he fixes the plan, comes back in, it should be ready for a preliminary approval at least.
With the
I'm right
stormwater-
across.
Sorry, go ahead, Fred.
I'm right across from lot number 1, and I see the stormwater infiltration basin, and I try to picture that in front of my front yard, and it looks like there'd be a landscaping challenge for the people there. The question, and I think I left that with you when I looked at the plans, Tamara, is will there be sump pump provisions in the dwellings? Because I have had many years of sump pump flow or water infiltration that I ended up solving on my house. I saw the test pits that were dug, and I would think most of the houses are going to be down onto rock, and water following the path of least resistance might be flowing back into the basement rather than out to the front through the front road bank. So I would be concerned if I were looking for a house that, and I think that we might have provisions within our ordinances that provide for foundation drainage. That would be a design issue, not a planning commission issue at this time.
Yeah, and I was going to pass that information back to the, to the developer as well. Like I said, I'm not sure if there's something in Saldo that we can require that, but I mean, we can certainly recommend that they consider it.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Doug, and I think Fred touched on this, if those basins are all up front in those front yards, I'm assuming that then they can't be planting trees and
No.
digging stuff up. And I mean, somehow we're going to have to, I do see that as a potential long-term challenge, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, and people don't, people come and go, and the next thing you know, there's all kinds of stuff in the front yard.
Yeah, that's true. You couldn't plant trees there because you have a subsurface basin, a stone basin there, so nothing would survive on top of that, or if it did, it would eventually, the roots would get in there and disrupt the system you had. And there's a berm along the front. So there's a berm, a small berm. It's only about 1 foot or 2 high along the frontage. And I don't know that you really want to plant trees on top of the berm, because according to his original design, that berm has to be constructed absolutely level. And I don't think they can do it. I don't think any contractor could do that. So I had that issues, but to your point, there's no room there for street trees or shade trees in the front yard. That doesn't mean you couldn't, have them put additional trees in the backyard to compensate in some fashion. But at this point, none of those lots would have room for street trees.
Okay.
I'm just
Yeah,
wondering,
and I wasn't even thinking about during development. I was just thinking as a property owner, you move in and you want to, people want to landscape and put trees and bushes and stuff in. And It's not like they need permits for those, so it'll be interesting to see how, I guess we'll have to talk with Dave on how we put some type of something, I guess, covenant on the plan, or so, I don't know. It'll be an interesting situation, I guess.
I think we need to enforce an easement along the front yards for the borough. I mean, under the Stormwater Management Act, it's required anyway, and eventually, if you don't do it now, the borough's going to be responsible for maintenance, or not maintenance, but inspection of these things to make sure that maintenance is occurring. So there needs to be an easement, probably right across the whole frontage of that thing, just to make sure, as you say, in 20 years, we can make sure they're not planting trees in there.
Right. Yeah, it's one thing if it's a permit issue and we're issuing permits, we can review that, but most people, people just plant what they want to plant. Heck, people build what they want to build and then ask for the permit, but
Doug, do you see any issue? I think it's is it a shared driveway for lots 5 and 6, the top 2 lots closest to Ridge Pike to Main Street?
There's actually 2, 4 and 5 share a driveway, and 6 and 7 share a driveway. But you can see out by the street, they're 18 feet wide.
Mhm.
Technically, per your ordinance, they need to be 24 feet. You don't want somebody sitting in that driveway waiting to pull out while somebody's trying to pull in and blocking the street. So it has to be sufficiently wide. But those were the 2 driveways I was talking about.
And as far as the slope goes, I think it gets a little hilly as you head down towards Upper
Yes.
Providence. No issue with the other driveways heading.
No, he
Heading out.
put, no, he put slopes on his driveways on sheet 4, I guess it is. And I checked him against the code. He's got the 4% maximum out by the street. And then it goes up to, I guess, as high as 10%, but that's still acceptable.
Mhm.
So, no, I didn't, and the upper driveway on the right, lot 6 and 7, I think was the most level of the driveways. So that had the least problems.
Is the joint driveway on 5 and 6 the result of the need for sight distance on a state highway?
That is a good question. I'm not really sure. I kind of felt that the need for that combined driveway is because there's such a high embankment on lot number
Yeah.
5 that he kind of brought it down around there. And so he would, to your point, yeah, I guess it would be if you excavated out, cut through that embankment to get the driveway in. But he also might have had a slope requirement that he couldn't meet if he's doing a lot
All
of
right.
cutting. So that, it kind of tells me what he was doing. But each one of these driveways does need a state HOP. And so he's going to have to address site distance and driveway slopes per the state.
In your experience, Doug, is that something that PennDOT would waive from 24 to 18?
Yeah, they could. They're of a mind of their own. And I've seen stranger things, but yeah, they could do that. But they themselves have their own regulations that they have to follow. And I would say, whatever the state permit is probably going to have to safe enough. And if they need a waiver from us, we're probably okay with it, provided they get the HOP. I don't think he submitted anything to the state yet. I kind of got that out of reviewing it. I didn't really actually ask the guy or anything, but I've seen the state come out and they'll make them, they've actually make them grade back those driveways before there's any plan for the houses or anything to make sure that they can get what they're proposing to do. So I don't think site distance will be a problem if he's got to get an HOP for it. But I would say before you grant them the final plan approval, he has to have something in the works for the HOPs. Maybe not have them in hand, but at least made a submission and have some sort of technical review done. So
I think the driveway for 6 and 7, I think they're only currently showing, oh, they are showing 18 at the road, but I know that the fire company is concerned about that driveway all the way back. So, and I have an email from the fire marshal that has requested that we ensure that, that's, they need 20 foot technically for the fire truck, or they like 20 foot. So we probably want to maybe keep that at least to 20 for the 6 and 7.
Yeah. That's good.
So.
I believe the landscape development plan would address the issues of landscaping, trees and shrubs in that front yard too. I'll get a chance to look at it later.
Yeah.
It does. I'm just more concerned with the homeowners later. Because I mean, most people buy their house and then they want to put their little, their little touches on it, and they plant what they plant different things, and I guess because that's who I end up dealing with down the road is the actual residents, and when you go out and tell them they can't plant bushes and trees in their front yard,
With all the taxes that I pay, I can't do what
Right.
I want.
Right.
See
I think we need to have have them sign a waiver at settlement that they understand they can't plant in the front yard. But we'll figure that out. So, all right. Well then, Steve, that's all I have. I do know we will likely have to meet in September because I had a call today about a sketch plan. And I anticipate having that for next month. And then obviously I would invite Accolade Properties to come. However, the date that council could schedule their public hearing for the West 7th tract zoning was September 15th, which would be Planning Commission. So I might have to look at some other dates and send some stuff out to you folks and see if we can make something else work if we have to have a September meeting. But that was what worked for the majority of council, and with timing, they wanted to get that done before. They couldn't do it at their September meeting, and they wanted to get it done before the October meeting. So that's where we're at. But if anybody's bored on September 15th, you can log into the public hearing on the zoning change.
Yeah, I didn't want to, misspeak, or I guess everybody else from the West 7th Avenue track is off the call.
Yes.
But, talking about a dispute, you didn't have a dispute. You went to zoning hearing and you lost.
Well, they didn't lose. And we never actually came to. Both parties agreed to have a continuance while they discussed potential resolution. So.
Oh, okay. I thought they ruled.
Never made a decision. No.
Really?
No.
So what happens? Say they're hell-bent on building apartment buildings.
If the borough would change the zoning to the village commercial and allow them to build that plan that they showed, and they've worked on that plan. It started out at 26, and now it was 24 and 22. I mean, we've seen it, a couple of times. But they would build, if they got the VC changed, they would build exactly what they submitted. If we don't change the zoning, they're going to continue through the zoning hearing process. And even if they lose our zoning hearing board, they would appeal that to the county. And if they win in the county, then they can build the 96 apartments, and they don't have to really go through any, they won't have to meet any zoning.
Wow.
So that's why, council has agreed to look at this, because, they're looking at it as what's the best use of that property, single family homes, apartments, or a potential industrial use, and that's why they're giving the neighbors opportunity to comment too. And they had asked Mullen to meet with the neighbors, and they did in January, and then again last month. And based on the discussion from the January meeting, where most of the neighbors seemed to prefer single family homes, obviously 2 apartments or 2 potential industrial use, that's where they came up with this plan. So,
What's the number of houses on village commercial as versus R2?
well, I think R2 is 20,000 square foot lots, I believe. And
Yep.
R1 or our village commercial is 10. So you could have, what, twice as many. And
Well,
I mean, they were
personally,
asked
I
to-
don't. I don't visualize that as being a location for what I could picture as village commercial. And I don't think that we are obligated to ensure that they can make the maximum profit off a development. What is, I don't know, I just,
Well-
I think it is something that is must be considered, yeah. And I would still raise the question of that density of village commercial at that location.
Well, Fred, what Tamara just said about if they were to win at the county, you know, they could do, I didn't realize their position was that strong. Is that
Mhm,
something
yeah.
that Doug or Tamara that you're familiar with, where a zoning hearing, there's no outcome?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I can't speak for Doug's experience. I mean, in my experience, there are municipalities that kind of you put something on hold while you work out a potential settlement. Now, because there is an active zoning hearing, anybody that's a party to that hearing has to approve a settlement agreement. So, if we were to, that's why they are requesting the zoning change, because then the public and the aggrieved parties have input and they can have consideration. So it's not that there isn't a resolution to the zoning hearing, it's that the parties have asked the zoning hearing board to put the rendering of their decision on hold while the parties discussed potential resolution.
Okay.
Because once there's a ruling, either party, one of the parties is going to lose any leverage, right? So,
Sure. Even if you appeal it.
correct. So that's the thought process is right now, neither one has necessarily more leverage than the other, right? Because you don't know what the outcome's going to be.
You know, my opinion, Ed seemed to come on pretty strong. You know, I was not aware of that. I for some reason thought that it was denied for the apartments.
No, it wasn't. And they actually did win. So the borough had adopted an amendment to the zoning where we specifically excluded residential, and they appealed that, and they did win that at the county court because we didn't publish the whole ordinance. But I didn't use the word certified, true, and attested copy of the proposed draft. So I sent to the county law library a proposed ordinance amendment, and I did not use the word true and attested copy of a proposed draft.
Oh my goodness.
So they did win that appeal, but they haven't lost the zoning appeal, but they did win the ordinance challenge. So I think they feel a little bit comfortable in the fact that they have a pretty good shot at court. And I don't know if they do or don't, but the problem is if they win in court, they can do the 96 apartments and we have no say.
Oh.
So did you say it was September 15th, the hearing?
Yes, that's 7:00.
And this is pretty much a continuance of the zoning hearing.
No, the zoning hearings is still being held in abeyance. And either party can still ask for a ruling. They can withdraw the time waiver and ask for a ruling. But if the borough would change the zoning, then they would withdraw the zoning hearing challenge.
Oh, that's very interesting. So the Borough Council wouldn't act on it that night. It would be probably at a future council meeting that they would act one way or another on the change?
I don't we haven't advertised it yet. And I don't know if the advertisement has said that they'll consider it that night. I'm just trying to see if I have the advertisement here in my email. David sent it over earlier today. They could consider it that night. Let's see how it's advertised, what it says. So usually it says, let's see, notice is hereby given that Trapped Borough will hold a virtual public hearing for the purpose of considering the enactment of an ordinance. The council may vote on the enactment of the ordinance. So they could vote on it that night, or they could vote on it at a subsequent public meeting. But they do have the ability to vote on it that night. So.
Okay.
And again, the public would, I mean, all the people that were at the zoning hearing that spoke, that entered in their name as a party will get noticed, along with anybody within the 500-foot radius.
Even if they were dismissed, I forget the term that was used.
Bob Brandt he didn't dismiss anybody. He
Okay.
gave everybody standing
Oh, great.
against
Standing, okay.
Bernadette's appeals. Now she could appeal that to county court too. I mean, that's an appealable issue as well. Who has standing and who doesn't? Because, I mean, technically, to show that you have standing, you have to show that you have an impact. I mean, and I don't know that all of those people had an impact, but Bob wanted to let everybody have their say. So.
Okay.
And I don't have an update on Central Perk. Dave Davis, I think, did go, but I don't have the minutes from that yet. So I don't think I have anything else unless any of you guys have anything else.
So I see a new name on council, Tom.
Tom Laterio, I think I pronounced that right. He is also a resident of Colonel's Place. He's one of Mark's neighbors. And he was appointed at the end of the July meeting, and August was his first public meeting.
Okay. So Dave Davis is still a planning commission member. He's not the liaison at this point?
He is currently both.
He's both.
He's
Okay,
the member and the liaison.
great. That's all I have. Is there any other questions or comments?
Not for me.
Okay. A motion to adjourn.
Second?
Adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Everybody have a good night.
Yes,
Good night.
you
Thank
too.
you.
Take care.
Good night.